Thank you to Spectacular Camel, aka Yabadis, Ayubates, and to Asterbate. Thank you guys for subscribing, and for Asterbate 100 bits donated to the stream. We are suffering from extreme early April heat here in my office in Budapest, Hungary. I am not expecting to be feeling like it's in the 80s Fahrenheit in early April, and that's the way it feels right now. Extremely, extremely warm. Beautiful weather for the coronavirus lockdown. Thank you again, guys, for supporting the stream. Asterbate, I wanted to mention, is now the bit leader for the week for our stream. With 1,000, what is it? 1,325? 1325? Is that correct? Never trust my numbers here. My Twitch stream doesn't seem to update. My Twitch stream doesn't seem to update very easily. So we've got where's my bit donations? You guys can't see this. 1325 for Asterbate, 1300. You just snuck ahead of Blobix and Mr. Slowhand. Mr. Slowhand's going to be very upset when he arrives today and sees that he's no longer the leader. You and Blobix snuck in the lead there. Fortuna Chess Coach, thank you. Thank you for the kind hello. And so guys, we're going to be doing game analysis for our stream today. What I call the subscriber stream, though everyone's welcome to watch and take part. The primary goal is to constructively analyze our subscribers' games and help you guys to improve as players. My way of giving back. Alright, so not a lot of games submitted. We've got Bob, Asterbate, Warnaki, LVN, Mr. Slowhand, and Yabadis. It feels like I'm missing somebody. Usually Stook submits a game. Sometimes we get games from Jim. Sometimes from some others. I've had a long day of work. A long day of work. Whoa, I just minimized my window. You guys can't tell. Where did it go? There it is. So hot in here. How is it where you are? It feels like 80 degrees Fahrenheit in my office. Okay, guys, first up is Bob. Bob is not here yet. Maybe we should hold off and do the Asterbate game first. So here we'll do Asterbate's game first. See if Bob shows up. Thursday's game submission. I didn't get a description here, any description from Asterbate about this game. It's just that I know that it's an Owen defense. Your employer is lucky to have you. You're an excellent communicator and have one of the best voices for streaming. All right, thank you. Rapid chess. So Fadul against Asterbate. Asterbate and I were just going over an Owen defense that he played, and it's not an easy opening to play if White is playing the critical lines. Black has a fairly large spatial disadvantage. I mean, this is an extremely hyper-modern defense. I would say like the Aliakin's defense is number one. In terms of the level of hyper-modernism, B6 is probably maybe like second most extreme. Modern defense and Owen defense. Except with a modern defense, like your king's side is a little bit safer. this fianchetto around your king kind of protects your king with the bishop on g7. In the Owen defense, you're not always castling queenside, so the fianchetto setup can't necessarily, really help to protect your king. This is a risky opening. I would think that Asterbate would do well. He would do well to play this against weaker players, maybe equal players at most. But frankly, Asterbate, I think you should play something else against the stronger players, something less extremely risky. Maybe work on a more solid opening with black against the higher rated guys who aren't going to overextend themselves. So knight f3, bishop b7. Knight f3 is already not critical, because if knight f3, you could already transpose to a Sicilian with c5. I had the same game with Asterbate myself earlier this week. We had a game where he played e4 and I played a6 and he played knight f3. And this is not the best move. If you give black a second chance to play c5, you're making a mistake. Is the Owen similar to the Grob? There's some sharp tactics that can come in with best play. I think they're different. They're very different. The Grob strikes me as different. The problem with the Grob, I think, is the weakness of these squares at h4 and f4. Particularly, as David Grigo told me, we were watching him teach some kids once, and he was just explaining how, when you move your g-pawn, you weaken 2 squares to beginners, and when you move your h-pawn, you weaken just 1 square. I mean, the Grob essentially weakens 2 squares, or 2 squares here as well. I think the Grob is just a weakening move. The Owen defense is not a weakening move, You mean like the Grob with black? Like, I'm not sure if you're talking about Fortuna Chess Coach. If you meant like trying to play g5 with black. What is that, like the macho Grob? But I think the g5 move weakens a lot more squares. It's not an issue of that. They're different, very different things. I think the Owen defense is just like very hyper modern, and you're not establishing any real control of the center too quickly here. You're allowing the opponent to establish a strong center, but you're not creating weaknesses in your position the way the Grob does. There's no irreversible weaknesses in black's position. So inherently, I think that the Owen defense may be superior to the Grob, but we're not exactly controlling the center. Anyway, knight f3, bishop b7, knight c3, e6, and now white has to play for an advantage, probably d4, the Borg. But d3, the Borg, that's Star Trek Next Generation, right? The Borg didn't come in until the Next Generation. Well, whatever. d3 is just a move. It's not that bad. Kind of it's a closed Owen. Optimally, white's best bet is to fianchetto for that bishop to get to a fairly good position. So this is provocative. Provocative move. My friend, who I haven't seen in a very long time, Ildar Ibragimov, he's a cool guy. I like Ildar a lot. I think he was living in the United States for a long time, but he may have moved back to Russia. He was in Connecticut. Good guy. He's very knowledgeable, extremely strong player. Here he's playing bishop b4. I don't remember Ildar playing the Owens defense. He used to play the French. But this is kind of a strange move. I don't feel like this really matters here. I mean, you're not really threatening anything. I don't think doubling the pawns is a big deal. He's going to keep those pawns in a strong formation. And you're not really threatening e4 because that's protected. So, Asterbate here, and Ibragimov, I don't understand why he's playing that move, but basically, when white plays d4, you play bishop e4, you're putting pressure on the e4 pawn. But when white plays just d3, e4 is solid, so I don't think this really, does a lot here. So Asterbait, basically you have to play something else, objectively. Knight f6, or c5, turning it into a Sicilian. Pragnanantha, the easiest name to pronounce and remember the spelling of any chess player in the world. I think you should play one of these things. Either g6, bishop g7, knight f6, or probably c5. I don't really like bishop e4. I don't really want to trade my bishop like unprovoked on c3. Just fianchetto bishops and some knight and pawn play attacking x square. You think of the Queen's Indian attack as a fight for e4. The Dutch for e4, yeah. No, I mean, I think we're fighting for e4 and d5, the same squares you're talking about. If you talk about the Queen's Indian. Similar. That's right. What? This seriously is your submission for the week? Acerbate's opponent just like mouse slipped b3. Let's see if you handle this accurately. Bishop d2. Now we're up. We've gained an entire rook. Okay, accurate. This is like the most one-sided game we've ever had submitted for a submission. 3 pieces. Queen a1, knight f6, bishop g5. Now castle's question mark according to the engine. Yeah, Asterbate gives a material back. So probably d6 with the idea of knight d7. I know a lot of you out there are gonna be like, "Oh, this is stupid. White's down 2 pieces." But let's, for the sake of principle, for the beginners out there, continue here. Castles is a huge mistake, allowing e5, and then on h6, your king side is gonna start to get kind of a little bit dangerous. It's funny that we were talking about earlier how in the modern defense you castle kingside, your king is safe. Like, I would bring my king over here to the queen side. Asterbate, like, why don't you just play d6, play knight on bd7, queen e7, and castle queenside? Because the truth is that's where you have more pawns at the end of the day. And with the extra piece here, I think it's totally valid. Bishop takes a1, queen a1, knight f6, bishop g5, castles e5. Now this is probably a controversial move because the g file is going to open here. Do we have an alternative? We have the alternative h6, obviously. What is our real alternative here? h6, bishop h4, and g5. And then white can play like knight takes g5. Maybe now you can play knight h7. Something to that effect. No? Knight h7, queen h4, knight f6 check. And at this point we're up. We're still up a rook. So we're good to go. Castles was a clear mistake. Bishop takes f3. And now why doesn't he take here? I guess here you have h6, seriously. And then g5. And rook g1. King h7. I don't know, though. King h7 pawn takes f6, pawn takes check, king h8, queen c1, queen takes f6. There's no way for white to pursue the attack here. It's kind of scary. Maybe he has queen e5. Oh, goodness. Now we're very, very much in danger, but I think we'll survive anyway. So black can try to survive with rook g8 now. What a position. There's no other move, right? This is decisive. I'm sure that black is better than this. Anyway, I got a little bit of field here. We went a little too far afield. Maybe Asterbait did the right thing. I don't know. But white taking here, you've got to play pawn takes f3, no? This has got to be a better practical chance to take here. h6, bishop h4, g5, rook g1. Oh, what am I talking about? Has to be pawn takes f6. You see, now this is where we get... Yeah, this is probably... This is like almost losing. So there are moves now for black. Black is up... What? Black is up the exchange. We can survive with cool defense here. e5, queen takes f6. Not easy, though. We do normally game analysis for my subscribers, and not really other players unless there's not enough games. You know, usually we do have definitely 10 subscriber games to go over. This week we're a couple short, so if a non-subscriber submits a game, like Mixmaster Felix was talking about, we might be able to get to it. I don't guarantee it, but we are a little bit shorter on the game submissions this week for some reason. So even though I sent out a message to remind people, we still don't have 10 games. This is marginal. This looks really, really dangerous. Is that if Asterbait takes this? I thought rook g1 check. Apparently this isn't good. King h8, and I thought rook g7. But now here, again this move. Oh, the e5. That's a winning move. So white had only a draw now with queen e5. That's pretty strong here. If rook g8 now, unbelievable. It's not even a draw. You have to play queen e5 first. And the maximum that white can get is a draw. But there's no reason you have to go into this. Okay, e takes f6 and now g6. So now it's not that critical. You're basically up the exchange. It still looks scary though. Azerbaijan never should have put his king in that area. You never ever should have brought your king over here to the king side. Someone on sound, welcome. Yeah, Reddy Band is a recent subscriber. I do note that. Asterbait in our first game here. I mean, obviously h4, h5 is scary. Bringing the queen down into the dark squares can be very dangerous. Fortuna Chess Coach has gifted a tier 1 sub to Mixmaster. So if you guys send a game, send it to my account here, Sparkle Horse on lichess. Ready Band send a game. Mixmaster, you can send a game to my account by a message on the lichess server. Now we've got enough games, almost, for today. Extremely hot here. I really wasn't prepared for summer to start on the 9th of April. It's not like I live at the equator or something. It's really insane. All right, Asprey, let's finish this up. So takes G6, takes, and now we've got to get developed. Knight C6 is a good move. Obviously, you've got to make preparations for threats against G7. I don't mind even sacrificing the exchange back if I can get it. Something like this, this, this. Take the pawn on F6. What you got to recognize here is that it's about more than just material. No. This example where this bishop is a pawn, Black would only win one pawn, but his position would be totally crushing because you have a good knight, White has a bad bishop, White's pawns are doubled, tripled in this case. I keep thinking like White's down a pawn, but he's not. He'll only be down a pawn if Queen takes F6. But this would be a really good way for Asterbate to just kind of win without any risk. Very strong queen and knight. So I would consider giving away the material there, Asterbate. Instead, he played rook e8. Excuse me. Instead, on bishop h6, he played rook e8. This is still good. I mean, we're threatening e5. We're going to play queen takes f6. If not, White has to waste more time playing like bishop back to g5 or bishop g7. It could be a pain, though. I mean, he's going to play like bishop g7. I think it would be easier just to give him the exchange back, honestly. Just a lot simpler to play it like this, man. Okay, he might play this anyway. Kind of funny. And then you could do like rook e8 and rook e6 and rook takes f6. Possibly there's another way to do it. You know, maybe you can organize knight d4, knight e6, knight takes out that bishop on g7. Nefedov. Nefedov. Who's Nefedov? Just another one of our subscribers. Nefedov, you're not making any inroads on your record number of games against the streamer lately. Good to see you. I hope everything is well. Rook g1, e5, and then f4. Yeah, I mean, he needs to try to hold on to that pawn on f6. So again, bishop g7 or something to that effect makes the most sense. White tries to open up the game, but we've got this pawn. Now maybe bishop g5, we're taking with check. This is a nightmare. Rook takes. Obviously you can trade queens, and that's probably what I would do in a tournament game. I don't know. I mean, you're up the exchange and the pawn in an endgame after queen takes e5 check. It's like zero risk strategy to play it like this. Knight takes or rook takes. And now you've got a very strong move, knight d4. Just simply doubling. White has bishop e3. So this was the killer move. Double attack this and this. And you can't take because of rook takes e2 check. Asterbate was starting to get asleep at the switch here. Because now we can always throw in bishop e3, right? So this was enough. Rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes. I'm concerned about rook g3. Would you care to analyze our last game if you have time and desire? You're off for a short walk in 10 minutes. LVN, thanks for the submission. Nefedov, our last game must have been years ago. We haven't seen Nefedov in the stream in months. it seems like. I don't recall playing. Maybe we did play. Maybe we did play in the simul. For those of you who don't know, I do a simul every Sunday at 6:30 here on lichess and Twitch. Maximum of 25 players. Usually, well, maybe 26. For the newer people, Nefedov was one of our most devoted followers. Still, until he started cheating on me. He's still a friend, despite his indiscretions. And, but I think he's close to holding the record number of games against, he's definitely one of the highest number of games played against me on my stream. If he's not the leader, he's close. I don't remember that game, Nefedov, when we played recently. So rook g3. This is just analysis variation. Anyway, alright. You played queen f6. And then this totally random move by white. You know, as the end is suggesting here, I mean, king d2, this is not so easy now. You're only up, what, the exchange and a pawn? White has the bishop pair, a kind of strong control of the center. Acerbate misaccurately. He inaccurately played this. Yeah, I mean, b4 was just ridiculous. It's clearly that's a good target anyway. I'm not sure what b5 is. Very random moves in this game. You were taking too many liberties with this guy. You played rook takes now. So that's a strong move. Rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes, pawn takes, and then knight c3. So what about the king and pawn endgame? I think this is an important... I'm not going to spend too much time on this game, but I think it's important to explain to people that, especially in Blitz or something, I mean, you have to learn to play the most fundamental king and pawn endgames. b4, your queen side is frozen. I mean, I've got a 3-on-1 majority on the king side. There's nothing to fear here. You know, this is just the easiest way to win with no risk. But a lot of people fear the endgame because they don't have a lot of practice. But the king and pawn endgame is the most basic of endgames. Okay, this is not a mistake. Clearly you have an a-pawn, but the possibility of you making a mistake here exists. In this kind of endgame, where you trade down to the king and pawn endgame, there's no chance of this, losing. It's very simple. You just walk your 3-against-1 majority up the board. White doesn't have any ability to create a passed pawn. This is just basic and simple. There's no way you can mess this up. But, I mean, in the game, by leaving pieces on the board, you're only giving the opponent practical chances to survive. I would have played, rook takes e2 or knight takes e2 instantaneously. This is just a practical mistake. Now your knight is actually a bit out of play. There's serious practical chances for this to still go wrong. I mean, obviously your a-pawn is extremely strong even so. He doesn't seem to recognize. There you go. Knight, no check. I think this is why he submitted the game, probably because of the move rook b1. He liked that. It wasn't one of Acerbate's best games, but there was this cute rook b1 move at the end. Freddy the f-pawn. Freddy the f-pawn doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. Alright, man. You definitely castled in the wrong place. You gave white practical chances to save the game. Mr. Slowhand, thanks for the donation. Mr. Slowhand donated 400 bits, taking the bit lead for the week. Thank you, sir. All right, so we're on to the game of Bob. Bob is not here yet, but we're going to do his game. We don't know if he's even going to show up. We'll do the games in order as I got them in general. So here's Bob. Thursday analysis, okay. Bob is the most outstanding troll on our stream, who also happens to be a subscriber. So this is Bob's game that was submitted first this week against Krishnan 1. So Bob actually lost. It's nice to see someone submit a game where they lost, because most of us, like Asterbait in particular, only submit the games where we win. We don't want to see the games where we lose. This is like a showcase, showdown. But I want to focus on people getting better, so sometimes you submit some games where you lost, Asterbait. Bob here, humbly submitting one of his losses. E4, C5, knight F3, knight C6. Uh-oh. Bob's playing the Asterbait attack. I think I've seen this somewhere. I try to tell people not to play this. It's not very effective to play bishop c4 if black can play e6 and sort of nullify that bishop's diagonal. As I've explained in the stream many times, if d6, bishop c4 is a pretty decent variation for white. But I mean, of course, white could even transpose to a Sozin Sicilian after d4. I think that's the real difference, though. I mean, against e6 or knight c6, e6, bishop c4 is not very good. So, Bob, you should definitely not play this. And the best move at this point, don't ask me. I guess castles. I would probably castle if I were white. I talked about this with Asterbait. Grandmaster Chichak, I don't remember where he's from originally. From a Yugoslav republic. But he actually plays queen e2 to stop black from playing d5. But it's not that great for white either, frankly. I think castles is the most principled move for white after e6. The idea being that if black plays d5, we can play a quick rook e1 check. And I would think that this is... white is at least equal here. Probably bishop to b5. Kind of almost like a Russolimo. Black, for his part, shouldn't necessarily play d5, by the way. I don't think that d5 is the best move. Black should wait, play a move like a6, rook e1, and then, b5. And we had a game like this similar with Asterbait last week. White probably has nothing better than to bring the bishop back to f1. And it's basically a kind of Russolimo. Not a very good one for white. Instead, Bob plays c3. So I would think now d5 is justified because there's no time. White doesn't have time to play rook e1 check. And queen e2. I mean, maybe white's best line here is to play d5, ed, queen e2 check. Let's see. Yeah. The most principal move for black is d5, and then I assume white has to play pawn takes pawn. Black has to play pawn takes pawn. This bishop has a nice open diagonal. But maybe Bob could play queen e2 check. When, like, this isn't available because the bishop takes d5. And I'm not really sure. I guess bishop e7 or something. Probably this would be what I would expect. Castle, castle. With the queen actually looking kind of funny here. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. It looks like black might be better. Maybe queen e2 is a mistake. Probably it is. But frankly, Bob, I think you're slightly worse after d5. So we should try not to play bishop c4 against knight c6. Bishop c4, e6, c3. Again, their castles isn't so bad. And now knight f6. This is a little like a Kopech Sicilian. But again, yeah, I mean, now you can play e5, knight g4, d4. If e5, d5, it's looking like a Kopech Sicilian. In fact, after e5, d5, bishop d3, it's probably some sort of weird transposition. I think I had that game with Kopech. Something like in a rapid tournament. e5, d5, bishop d3. And then knight d7. Does that seem right? No, maybe we can't protect this now. Yeah, the bishop would have to go to b5 to keep e5 protected. Then knight d7. And then something like queen e2. Maybe just castle. Yeah, see, there's a bunch of games now. Not really good for white, but playable. This is the playable position. That's probably the best chance. I'm not sure if I like knight f6. Black has other good options. Knight e7 and a6 are both very constructive moves. Now this isn't that bad, but again, d5 is unpleasant. Now how are you going to answer that? I wonder what you can do here. You can't lose a pawn, so you practically have to take, which is a massive concession. Yeah, you have to play it like this, or maybe bishop b3, but I don't like white's game. That's the best you can do. The lesson is don't play the Bodler attack or whatever it's called, unless black plays d6 on move 2. The longer black delays d5, though, the less strong it seems. This is a typical mistake. I can't tell you, Bob, how many times I see people make moves like bishop e3. But as an old Russian master taught me when I was a kid, this bishop is very strong on its original square. However straight, may your diagonals forever be straight, but this is a strong piece. You don't need to develop it here. It's not even an open position, it's a closed game. Bishop is fine where it is. Knights before bishops. This is a bad move. It's a target. You can get hit by d5, d4. You can get hit by knight g4. Now black played knight a5. This was interesting. Bishop, it can be saved. So maybe, Bob, you want to save your bishop. Rockport playing weird stuff? You're kidding, right? It's funny, when I played him and when I met him when he was a little kid, he was normal. He played like normal openings, and then one day he developed the crazy thing where he started playing cringe-worthy openings, and he colored his hair blue. I don't know what the deal is with that. Why Rockport became all crazy? You know, there must be something wrong. He's a great player, but he should have been like a contender. Instead, he plays weird openings, colors his hair strange colors, and never really seems to get into the top, like, 20. Something not 100% right. You know, he had huge potential. He's a great player, but it's a little bit of a disappointment when everybody thought he was going to be, you know, like a top 10 player, particularly here in Hungary. Bishop e3, knight a5. So, Bob, this move may be a problem, huh? Queen b6? That's funny, though. There is that, the bishop on that diagonal, but nothing we can really do with it. It seems like a problem. I mean, a4, a6. I don't know. Any counterplay here is a little bit slow. Take, take, take. This is fine for black. Bishop b3. We had to surrender the bishop pair. I think I would consider taking with the pawn here, Mr. Bob. Open up the rook. These double pawns are really not a negative. In a closed position with 16 pawns on board. A lot of people put too much well, Bob, I assume you submitted it because you wanted to understand why you lost. You know, it's nice. I said it was nice to see someone submitting a game they lost. But it's always possible you submitted the wrong game. But it's instructive that a lot of people are too anal retentive about their pawn structure. You know, here I kind of think this is like a constructive move. I'm not sure there's any real inherent weakness in that. And there's any way black can really exploit the fact the pawns are doubled. A6, good flexible move. B5, bishop B7. Yeah, I mean, this is much more standard. A4. This is a bit of a problem for your opponent now. How will he maintain his position? You missed a really good try. He probably has nothing better than to either play b4 or take, which would jeopardize his structure. He can't. No, he could play this. Okay, I guess this is best. Rook b8. But in any case, like, that would at least give you the A file. White is not very much worse here, only slightly. This move I'm suspicious of. You create a weakness at d4. Instead of, you know, your A pawn being an influencer, you know, you're using the C pawn. But the C pawn's already performing an important function here, controlling d4. I don't like this move c4. You played similarly against me in the past. And I also don't like your opponent playing b4. I don't think he should give up his flexibility. Why should he give up without a fight? Even if you take this pawn, black might have rook b8. He might have pawn takes pawn, queen takes pawn, bishop a6 with a slicey diagonal here. I'm not sure I want to play b4 if I'm black. In fact, you could have played d4 now. This actually looks like a really strong move. Maybe your opponent has knight g4. But let's just look at this. Not sure which way to recapture. Just hypothetically, this doesn't look bad. And white has very good control of the center in this position. And two knights plays better against two bishops than bishop and knight. Especially in a closed position like this, with all the pawns on the board. I don't think white is really worse there. So he gave you a clear chance to play d4. And you played this hesitant h3. I understand h3. Let's see what the oracle says. a3, chipping away at his pawn structure. I still like d4. The computer thinks that black is slightly better. It likes that bishop pair. Alright. Not a very exciting game though, Bob. It's a good strategic game to look at. h3 is not a bad move. I think that was the engine's #1 choice. I didn't like his move b4 though. There was no reason to commit his pawns like that. Now there'll be a huge hole here on c4 if your c pawn captures or something. It's always best to keep the pawns kind of abreast. So a5, I like that. Well, I see that a5 is a good move. Queen d1 was kind of passive. Bishop e7. Now you can't play d4. I still think you should have played d4 instead of h3. h3 was a slow move, and you're getting kind of punished for that. Now what, rook e1? No. This is horrible. That's the first really bad move you've played. It's just a terrible square. You're in the path of the pawn. It's a bad square to begin with. If you played rook e1, maybe you're threatening to play d4. Maybe not. Yeah, I think you might be threatening to play d4. That'll be my try. I don't think it's that bad. Unfortunately, now d4 might not work. You're going to end up losing a pawn here in this type of line. But I don't think it's easy for you to equalize now. You played a little bit too passively. Now it's just, this move is bad. And your opponent just blundered his c5 pawn. It's a crazy move by black. First of all, I thought he might be able to just play like queen c7 or something like that. Clearly d6 is a normal move. I don't know if Bob intended to play e5 to try to break up the c5 pawn. Perhaps. It's not so bad. I don't think it's great, but Spassky would play e5, probably. I don't know. Spassky pawn break. But what's up with this? I mean, clearly black really didn't mean to do this. So this was a poor game. A poor game. It's not bad to play this move, probably, and then take on c5, which is what you did. It's still not bad. You just want a pawn. Your knight is obviously a little bit vulnerable, but at this point you're a pawn up. I don't really see how he can attack your knight again. In fact, very easily. So, I mean, even a move like bishop d4, I guess this is a problem. Not good. As the computer points out, knight d4, knight f5, but I was trying to think of something on my own. Not bishop d4. Bishop d4 is bad because he has take, bishop takes f3. But anyway, like a normal developing move, I mean, I guess he's threatening d4. Can he win material with d4 now? It's cutting off your protection. And if bishop takes d4, okay. Thanks for the piece. Yeah, that doesn't look good. b3 is a blunder. I'm not even sure, how do you not lose a piece here? You have some sort of trick. I'm not really getting it. Oh, you have knight takes d4. I get it. So that works. With the idea of knight takes c6. So if bishop takes c5, knight takes c6. Very deep. All right. Bob, you weren't up to snuff tactically. Takes here. Why didn't you just recapture? Clearly, you're just a clear pawn up here. Black has the bishop pair, and a very strong bishop at that on the diagonal, but he wasn't supposed to drop his c5 pawn. He wasn't supposed to be down a pawn. You could also play this way, but it would be more risky to take toward the center and give him an outside pawn. You said that's how he won the game. Well, yeah, I wouldn't want to give him outside pawns. But you just sort of, you played a crazy move now. It looks like he might have a tactic. Bishop takes g2. There's a very cute little shot here. Bishop takes g2. King g2. Bishop c5. Bishop c5, queen d5 check. And he picks up the bishop on c5. I mean, that would like destroy your king side. And maybe gain a pawn back, which he needs. You obviously played knight e5 without really working out any sort of serious ramifications here. Takes, king takes, bishop takes c5. The square. Alright, you could bail out with like pawn takes pawn. And it's probably about equal. Though black shouldn't trade queens now with their king exposed. Chirping. Yeah, I don't pay much attention to the chirping anymore. It's worn out. It's novelty. It's new to you. Knight e5, queen d5. So this was also a strong move. Oh my god. I was assuming that like taking on c6 would be kind of solving your problem. This is also very strong. That was well conceived by your opponent. So basically this stays on prise and he's threatening c3 with a protected passer. Man, that's oof, that hurts. This passed pawn like wins the game. In and of itself. A passed pawn, a protected passed pawn on a 6 like this, oof. Yeah. That's not fun. You know, it wouldn't be bad if it was isolated, but it's like anchored by the pawn on b4. And it's practically impossible to knock out that pawn chain. It would take a miracle. Well, I mean, probably, yeah, I don't know. Probably you should try like d4 here, I guess. But I'm not liking this. This is a killer. This is a dead pawn. It's very hard to survive. Knight a4, though, may have made the situation worse. I don't know if you're thinking about this, though. You might have a way to play like knight to c4. Kind of block the file. No, I would consider that move. No, this pawn isn't going anywhere immediately. And Bob, queens are not good blockaders. You've actually got like 3 pieces, I'm going to say 5, but you have 4 pieces on the queening square. Maybe you're panicking a little bit too much here. I agree that like strategically white may be lost, but we're still a long way from him being able to actually force it. So, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy would apply now. I mean, I think you don't want to panic. You have another problem, though. It's not just the pawn. This pawn. You know, I mean, the d3 pawn is toast. He can just build up on this pawn. It might even end up being, you know, just as much of a problem. You're going to lose that pawn. But I think this is sort of... To put your queen on c2, it's really bad. You need to try to play a3, man. I don't know. It's really not going to have any effect. It's bad. Now you can't do... Now you could do this. Maybe knight here, and knight c4. It's still not going to save you. I understand. But it's at least a good square for your knight to go to. You could put up a lot of resistance here, I think. I would consider taking with the pawn. The reason why this is considered, I think, considered here is so that these pawns are united now. That was the police coming for Bob's rook capture. It wasn't his best game. I mean, clearly we've got to do this. Now this doesn't work because of takes. Another good point of playing rook takes e3. We can't get our knight back in the game. I don't know, but your opponent is happy you submitted this game. He just sent me a letter of thanks. It is instructive though, Bob. You gotta get the knight in the game, man. You gotta get it back there. Now he's got the knight d6. Is that how you lost? You finally played like knight b2 here and lost to queen d6? Because there's mate? It's not actually mate though. Oof. Yeah, just merciless. One last try. And the queen's off isn't going to help you. You definitely don't want to trade queens. This just got magnified. The value of that protected pass pawn is just like 3 times more now with the queens off the board. Oof. Yeah, that was a massacre. Nice game, Bob. Thanks for submitting. All right, Bob submitted his first masochistic defeat. Our next game is Warnaki. Thank you guys for supporting the stream. Thanks for the gift sub, Slowhand, Astrobate, for your donations today. But it was instructive, Bob. You sacrificed yourself for the good of the learning experience of all of our viewers. Greetings there, wise master. I'm going to for your sigh with a submission. What does that mean? But in my defense, it had to be. Oh no. We've got dogs. We've got ambulances. We've got birds chirping. Honestly, if it wasn't like 85 degrees in my office, Fahrenheit, I have to clarify that because I'm in Europe, I would really close the window, you know. Dogs on quarantine, too, are not happy about it. At least I didn't lose. Right? It was a draw. I don't mind it that much. Look at that. I had 16 cent upon loss. Warnaki, I don't think I checked this game. I did look it over, but I didn't realize I had played correctly. I played pretty correctly. I was +2 in the final position. Oh, I remember now. But I was skeptical of the computer's analysis here. I was skeptical of my quote-unquote +2 advantage at the end. I thought it was much more complex than that. But let's take a look. This is interesting. So I'm white against Warnaki, who, you know, if he... I don't think you've had a draw, right? I play e4, d6. We're facing the Pirtz defense, and then he plays knight c6, which is funny because I'm playing occasionally e4, knight c6, d4, d6. It's not a very good line for black, frankly. And I had this position with black against the Hungarian FM kid a month ago. And I just play this opening once in a while to try to kind of throw people off. But I'd expected like a kid to play it badly. And the kid like played it. Like after the game he acted like he had no preparation at all. Just kind of made it up. But he just naturally found like the very best line. My opponent played d5 as well. So I copied him. And I'm aware of these games here. Like the Paris pawns of Shabalov. I don't know what Shabalov's doing. He doesn't normally play e4, knight c6. But he must have got his knights wrong, because he usually plays like maybe Alyakin's defense. But the plan is to play knight b8 generally, and my opponent here played c4, and I need to study this more deeply. I think I played g6. I'm forgetting now. I'm forgetting how the move order went, but I think it was like this, and then he played like f4. I'm not sure about the exact move order. I'll have to check it, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Our opponent here played 95. Now this move I've never intended on playing with black, but now after that other game that was such a horrifying experience, I'm even tempted to think about it. I mean, this almost seems worse than playing knight b8, because now we can lose another move to f4. You see, guys, there's a game here from 1998. There's a couple of games by this Yugoslav master. I think he was Serbian. Mastrovic. Mastrovic was like the master of this opening with black. He's an IM. He was an IM. He passed away a few years ago. I never met him. But he's like the #1 expert. He was like the #1 expert in the world on this defense for black. He played it almost exclusively against strong players and did okay. But I seriously can't really justify this, you know. I mean, this seems kind of nuts to just give white another tempo. But I hadn't really looked at this for either side, so I was surprised when Warnacki played this defense. So here, I don't know what got into me. I was actually kind of reminded of a totally different variation. I was more thinking about this type of line with e5, pawn takes e5, knight takes e5, and then knight f3 is white's main move. I've also played f4 there, so I don't know why I would react differently here. The one time I played this over the board, I played f4. And I've showed this game before, but it was very bad for black. It was like knight g6, bishop c4, bishop c5, bishop takes f7, check. And black is lost. That was FIDE master Jared Bryan. But this is a different position. I don't think the way I play this here is really great. d5, in the game, d5, knight e5, and knight f3. This just doesn't seem great. Now that's a really weird, trippy thing right there. Oh my god. Mastrovic played with white against his own opening, knight f3 here. I was just going to say how bad this move is for white, how really not critical it is. That's funny that the guy would play it against his own opening. I guess he just played this with white to try to throw people off, you know. Hey, this is the right move. Hoping that people would see him play this crappy move that I played. I mean, so if you're going to play against your own opening, are you going to like show people the right way to do it, or are you going to intentionally play something bad? I just don't think that knight f3 is very incisive. All I'm doing is like trading pieces, and black has less space. We got to go with f4 here. Or at least play like knight c3 and then hold it in reserve. The computer says the best move is knight d7. That's just ridiculous. To voluntarily retreat your knight back to d7. If that's the best move, this opening goes in the crapper. Oh my god. Tim Taylor got crushed. Did Mastrovic win that game? He was 24-66. Knight f3. Yeah. Knight f3, he did win. But it was a much lower rated opponent. Masterovic. You've got to be strong when you're called Masterovic. You cannot be a weak player. But, what did you do? Knight takes f3 check. That's what this other dude did a couple times. It makes sense to me. You want to trade pieces when you have less space. See, the guy who lost played knight f6. This transposes to Aronyan versus Zhubov. And another Mestrovic game with black against Sviton, he drew. So knight f6 is actually maybe not bad. White doesn't have time to avoid the exchange of pieces now. This is actually an alright move, because we're actually threatening to take this. Like, what's White going to do? Play c3? c3 and hope that you take this? Win a piece? I mean, what way of... what constructive move do we have here for White? Knight takes e5, but it trades pieces. That dog is gotta go. Calling him the dog catcher. Anyway, alright, long discussion here. Knight f3, knight f3. I thought about taking with the pawn. It's probably not that bad. But I decided after g6, with that bishop on the long diagonal, I wasn't sure where I would put my king in this kind of position. I don't really like the king side. I don't like going long with the bishop on g7, long castles. g4 and then what? g4 and then e4. I don't mind this, but I just don't know where my king is going. It would be a way of making the game more complicated. Alright, so queen takes f3 and then knight f6. Generally what you want to do is undermine my center here, Warnaki. So you played knight f6. It can't be a necessarily bad move. I think g6 is okay. c6 is okay. I was thinking about e6. Knight f6 is deferring the decision. Now the computer will probably say c4. This is like my game against the kid, except for the fact that I didn't manage to trade pieces. You know, we would have the same position, but there'd be knight on f3, knight on b8. That exchange helps Warnaki here. The fact that he's traded pieces helps him. I played knight c3, a6, a time-consuming move. I don't think you need to play that. You know, I would just play like g6 if I were you, Mestrovich. There's no need to play that. This is not a threat. You know, I don't think this is a problem. If I play check, I wouldn't worry about it. So you waste a little time there. I decided to stop b5. It's an arbitrary decision. g6 and now h3. I didn't like this. But we're both playing a lot of pawn moves here. Bishop g7. And then I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to put my bishop. I was looking at all these squares. And I sort of chose a move at random in this position. With h3, I decided I want to play maybe queen e3. That's what I did later. A lot of ambulances here. Now knight d7. I thought this was a cool idea to play knight c5, knight e5. This so far is pretty good. I can't castle queenside because of particularly the long diagonal and a4 being played. I'm going to have to close the window because this is just ridiculous. I'm going to suffocate. The noises in Budapest are probably like some of the most of any city I've ever heard. Maybe the most annoying noise city in the world. So castles, knight e5, queen e3. I don't know that this is a big threat, but I mean, my plan was to play bishop h6, f4, and then try to attack you on the king side. So I thought f6 wasn't bad, and I don't really want to trade pieces if I don't have to, but that was the plan. And also this, I wasn't sure what's happening in some kind of weird position like this. I wasn't really sure if I liked this, with my bishop getting shut down to g3. So I decided to go bishop h6. e6, an interesting break. Now you took on d3, took with a pawn, and you played e5. And frankly, I thought I was better here. I was looking at this file as an advantage. I'm going to turn off the engine I don't think the computer really understands this kind of closed position too well. So it's better for white. The engine thinks I have a space advantage, mostly the pawn on d5. Your bishop is actually pretty good. I don't think the knight is stronger than the bishop. Maybe the bishop's stronger than the knight, but my space advantage seems like the most important factor here. I kind of wanted to undouble my pawns and influence the center. I thought d4 was good, and you just calmly defended with queen e5, e7, and rook c1, and now I really thought I was better. I mean, this is solid. I'm very solid at e4. The problem is, how do I get across to attack? How do I increase the pressure on c7? I couldn't find a way to increase the pressure against c7. So you exchanged, I took here. And by the way, I don't think you have to make that exchange. You know? The question is, it's hard for black to do anything. I mean, I understand, like, maybe you're reluctant to play this because your pawn would be unprotected. But I'm not sure what I can do about it. You know, maybe you should just simply play bishop d7. If pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. It looks still pretty solid for black. I'm not sure you should give up the center here. If I could, like, take with the knight, you would be in big, well, you'd be dead, you know. If I could play, like, knight takes d4 and f5 and knight e6 check, forget about it. But the problem is, maybe you should play rook e8 now. I just can't really get pressure on c7. And here was the critical moment. King g8, knight e2. Now I wanted to transfer, and that's my idea. And then you struck here with f5. This feels like a mistake. Maybe rook e8 you could play. I guess my intention was to play knight g3. That actually looks quite strong. I can guard the pawn from the other side and keep pressure on c7. And white is better. So you played this. Let's see what the engine says. Rook e8, maybe b5. Yeah, white is clearly better. But you played this. You let me play e5, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a crush. And then you shocked me by playing c5. And frankly, I mean, I was very upset by this move. I knew that deep down I should take the pawn on c6 with takes en passant. But I kind of had this feeling, this gut feeling, that somehow, you know, I can't take with the pawn because of queen takes here. But it probably would come down to something like this. I had the feeling that maybe it wasn't so great for me, that your bishop would become really strong. But frankly, I mean, this is just a huge threat. So you have to play bishop e7. I mean, I don't know. I saw the rook coming down here, the other rook filtering in here. I saw all these ghost threats in my mind. But the point of the thing is that, like, when he plays c5, I think I really have to take it and take my chances with letting his bishop become strong. And instead I did this, but now, without that line, it's hard for me to do anything. This was another good move. And it's probably very likely that I shouldn't open the A file for black's rook here on the A line. But c5 was a brilliant move, a brilliant practical move. I immediately went through my head, like, when I played this move, like, I really should have taken on c6. I literally remember thinking, like, I should have taken there. I know I'm going to regret this, but I went here. And then here. And now it's just like, the pawn on d5 falls, I'm just screwed, you know. And I don't see how I can safely keep these pawns protected. So I did what I had to do. I gave up the A file. That's obviously dangerous. You know, you could just invade down here. In fact, maybe that's what you should play right away. What do I do? If rook a4, this is from the simul, yeah. It's a 2040 simul. So if rook a4, knight c3, rook b4. Oh, you're so active, you know. I know that I have strong pawns here, but they're not that strong. So it's starting to get kind of out of control at this point. And you play this kind of passive move. I don't like queen d7. You got me pinned here. And you've got the initiative, and it's your turn. So you need to play an aggressive move to increase the pressure somehow. Let's see what the oracle says. b4. What about my move? Rook a4 is up there. But here you went a little bit passive. Queen d7. That obviously gives me a tempo to push e6, which is also dubious, sort of dubious. And I just made a solid move. And now this was apparently a mistake. I don't really understand what the big deal is. Something to do with g4 later on. So e6. And I offered a draw here because my time was low. 13 minutes, but I'm playing a whole bunch of boards. And I didn't see, I was concerned that g4 was basically risky because he can come down here and this long diagonal might be a problem. Maybe I was a little overly cautious because I didn't have very much time. So I don't think that the engine says plus 1.3. In the after the game analysis it says plus 2, but it's not plus 2 for white. It's like plus 1. Plus 1 pawn. But like a minute ago it was much less, like here. And probably you shouldn't even play queen d7 and you're okay. Like if we look at this position, the advantage is 0.3. If you play rook a4, keeping the position like fluid, I don't know who's better here. I can look at the oracle and see what it says, but I'm not sure that I believe it. Black's very dynamic. You can double. You have the 4th rank. Your pawns are fluid. I'm tied down to this d pawn, and what do I do? What is my plan? My knight can't do anything. My rooks can't do anything. The only plan I have is g4, which feels like risky. So, good game. That was one of Warnacki's best games. Against me, at least. Alright, guys, we're moving on. So, LVN. Here's a short classic game that I played nearly perfectly. LVN versus Fenner 14. Yeah, I don't think that rook a4 should be a hard move to find. He just got the a file, and he doesn't have that many options there. He's pretty restricted, so infiltrating and doubling the rooks on the a file, it seems really natural. Okay, so LVN is white. Knight c6. Knight c3. Yeah, okay, the 4 knights is kind of I've always thought it was kind of a boring opening, but there are various moves on move 4 you can do. Symmetrical openings don't stay symmetrical forever, so it doesn't have to be boring. Knight f6 here, you have a lot of interesting moves, like bishop e2, a3. You don't have to play like the standard variations with bishop e5 and g3 is another move. I've showed you guys that crazy line before, like knight takes, d5. I was there when this game was played, Ivanov versus Husari, and Alexander was like hyperventilating. His knights got pushed back to the 1st rank. This is just, fun stuff can happen in he won, but it's not a good line. It's a good piece sack for black, actually. But I'm not sure that's what we're going to see here. Okay, bishop c5. So this is called the 3 knights game. It's actually very rare. You almost never see this. It's classically labeled 3 knights game. I have to confess I know nothing about this because I don't play it with either color. So you can see here that the main move is knight takes e5. I think the problem with knight takes e5 is that it trades pieces. So you might see some people like at the highest levels maybe not really like the fact that that type of exchange variation, it's basically exchanging. I'll take on e5, you'll take on e5, I'll play d4, you'll play bishop d6. I think I looked at this actually. This is another gambit line we're going to see here. I mean, I don't like bishop takes f2 check, but this is the question. Knight e5, d4. Bishop d6 takes, bishop takes. So the rejecting people of this variation would say, well, I don't like the fact that white gets to trade a set of pieces. Black gets to trade a set of pieces. But at the end of the day, it still looks like white is better. You have a strong pawn on e4 that black doesn't have a strong pawn on e4. On bishop d6, there's also knight b5. I have not looked at that. That's interesting. No, well, okay, but you're sacrificing a piece now. That's nuts. That's like really nuts. Maybe. And this knight I don't like, unless we're going to take. That's another line. Yeah, this is a little speculative. Almost you have enough compensation for the sacrifice piece, but I would say h4. I'm not sure if knight g6 is best. Knight c6 is also possible. Knight g6, knight d6, cd6, and h4. Maybe we'll save that for next week. Not recommended. So what your opponent did, like what they all do. Isn't it possible for black to play like knight f6 here? Then we're going to be in some kind of dubious pawn. So, hey, you would like this though. Maybe LVN would like this. Playing black here. If knight takes c6, we transpose to something, no? This looks like a kind of legitimate gambit. Probably white should play knight to d3, hitting that bishop on b6. Yeah, this is actually playable. Why can't black try this? Okay, so knight c6, dc6. Hinks Edwards. Queen e2. That's the Stafford Gambit. Did I add Nefedov to the list? I think I forgot. I can't even read my own writing. When was Nefedov? Like last one? I don't know, man, but this is definitely a playable, gambit for blitz and rapid. I wouldn't do it in a tournament game. You're missing a pawn as black. Yeah, this is a sack. I'm just saying I wondered if black can try this. And there's no games with knight f6. Playable at some level. White can also play knight f3 though. Let's say knight f3 castle. And now, what do you do? Dubious gambits, but LVN would like it, probably. Stuk would like it too. So bishop takes f2 check. This is theory, apparently. I don't really like giving up that bishop, though. This is dynamic. It's just dynamic. Better for white. It's just a strong center. It's not. There's not enough compensation. It's like this beginner variation, e4, e5. This line that Clash Kid used to play. I don't know, bishop c4. How would it go? He would play this variation. You know how beginners play these positions, like bishop takes f7 check? Look at the score. It's like negative 8 million. It's just awful for this is like a typical beginner variation. Knight takes e4. Mamedyarov did this with white. What was he thinking? This is like just a worse version of what LVN's opponent did in this game. Okay, so knight takes e5. Batches of what? That's the question. King f2, knight e5, d4, knight g6. Wow. Okay, I don't know this, but it's funny that he played queen f6 check. That looks like it's just going to get stomped on by knight d5 in the future. It's a great day, chess and super special chocolate chip cookies. That's like two strong players have played this. Subaraman and Almira. Popular with WGMs. Okay, Almira is a men's GM. King g1 and then knight g6. So it looks like you have to play knight g4 here. That's a neat trick. You got to admit. That's a cool move. Queen g4, acerbate. We like this. My next arranged game will set this up. My next arranged victory. I want to win. So this is all prep for you, but it's just a bad line for black. It looks like. So they have to go knight g4, and then you have to play queen d2. And it's just clear advantage to white. You know, man, this is like, yeah. Two bishops, the center. You're going to kick the knight back. It's a disaster. It's... Okay, Elmira was 2200 when she played that game. So, it's excusable. Now h4, the classic move. How does this work? Knight takes, e5, queen d8. I mean, yeah, this is disastrous for black. What a position. Black is like completely paralyzed. Maybe bishop c4. You can go knight d5. Look at that. God, man. h4 is good. Anytime the opponent puts their knight on knight 3, it's always good. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be protected. It's just like always good. I don't need the computer to see that. Yeah. So black makes a practical decision to not play king d8. The computer would play king d8. As you can imagine, the black king is not safe here. I mean, I don't think, knight b5 is a mistake. Castles is probably the best move under the circumstances. King d8 is just dangerous. And now take, rook b8. That's the move he missed. That's the key. Trapping the queen. The knight controls the e6 square. Beautiful. Time to give up. Not good. Devastating and relentless. Rook f1. I can't believe you played queen f2. But that's threatening mates. I guess rook f1 doesn't really threaten mates. Queen f2 threatens more mates. The best move after queen f2, besides resigning, is probably like bishop f5. Anything to keep the f file closed. I would say like this, probably. is black's best move. We can prevent mate for a number of moves by doing bishop f5. Probably. Is rook f1 stronger? It's a good question. Let's see. But it's obviously... Either way, black will probably be minus 20. The budget castle, I like that terminology. Oh, we didn't tell you, Bob. LVN was playing this game, rook odds. That rook wasn't really on the board. I coined the budget king. I forgot about that now. Better put it in quote bot so we don't forget. But I like developing the rest of the pieces. The rook, just tell your friends that was a rook odds game. They'll be even more impressed. LVN. Mr. Slowhand. Mr. Slowhand, is he here in the stream? He donated earlier. Thank you guys for the games. That was a fun game. I hate bishop takes f2 check in those kind of positions. It just gives you all the dynamics, you know. Most people play this kind of move. They think, oh, I'm weakening the enemy king. But actually, your king was snug as a bug in the rug. The proverbial rug. So, Mr. Slow. I don't even remember now about Budget King. I can't expand on it. I'm like way back in my messages, it looks like. Where is Mr. Slowhand? Alright, so for the subscriber stream, I would like you to analyze our latest simul game. Oh, and specific, the opening idea of playing a5 and a4 on the queen side with white's f4 and the Taurus variation. Also, is there a way to make progress in the position before I blundered the exchange on move 39? Frankly, I haven't looked at this game other than the opening, Mr. Slow. I think I went back and reviewed most of these simul games, like, to a degree, but I didn't have a lot of extensive analysis of it. I had a simul last Sunday where I was undefeated for the first time in like a million tries. Because they love chess, Bob. It helps us to get to know the characters and be a little more... It helps build our community a little bit, especially now that we're socially distancing. We can't be as touchy-feely as we used to be. So instead of touchy-feely, we're going to do, you know, emotional touchy-feeliness. Your Twitch decided to close on its own. So actually, Mr. Slowhand here, I haven't played this line in a while. I was experimenting with it for a time. My knowledge of this line is limited. I'm not a native e4 player, but I have played e4 quite a bit. It was analyzed by John Watson in his book, Play the French, second or third edition. I don't remember which one I have. Back around 2000, 1999. And that book is aimed at black, but Watson is objective. He does a lot of analysis of this variation. I played this a number of times here on the stream a couple of years ago with mixed results. There's some very scary variations. So, this exchange on d4, it's unclear to me. I mean, I guess queen b6 is the main move, putting pressure on d4. And then the one that we knew best, because I had a former roommate who was like master strength, and he used to play this line with white. He was the reason why I started playing it. He had incredible results with this line, just devastating people. If black plays routinely, he gets crushed. But this is actually kind of interesting. A3, A5, H4, I was thinking. And then we had some crazy stuff like king f2. Is this playable? Apparently this is already a mistake. The king would try to hide up here on g3, but I guess depends on the position you're trying to do it. Yeah, this is inaccurate. Here I can play... Can't play bishop d3. This is a bit of a problem. Yeah, I don't know what I would do here. Rook h3 maybe. But the a4, and then you've got a clear plan of clamping down over here. So you don't like queen b6. So you're saying you don't like queen b6. You would never do that. I don't know. I mean, it's the move that keeps the tension, you know. Generally, keeping the tension is the right way to go. Early stage openings for both sides. This early exchange, okay, it's not the advanced variation. It's not like I can put a knight on c3, but maybe I can. You know, maybe the fact that I can go knight e2, knight c3 now is a problem. Looking at it now that I have time to look at it. So a5 is known, but the best player who played it is Harika. No, Ganguly played it. But nobody special. Sebanek, Ganguly, and the lady from India. I was just thinking, like, maybe I should just play knight e2 and try to put the knight on c3. It didn't occur to me during the game to switch over. It's funny, like my B knight goes to f3 and my G knight goes to c3. Like it's like an inverted mirror. I was thinking maybe b5. That's never been played, but it would make sense. Classic troll maneuver. Now I could go here and play a4. This is just pure speculation. I'm not sure if that b5 move is good. It's never been played. So this has been played, and everyone played a4. Shit, b5 was the best move. But the engine likes it for white. It was played by Saks Jula. The late, great Saks Jula. Hungarian Nagymester. Magyar Nagymester. Great player. This actually looks like maybe I would try that if I had to do over again. A do-over. Maybe next time we'll try knight e2. So, I played the more obvious move, bishop d3. And now he played a4. There's another Saks Jula game from '96. I had no idea this is like the main line. I'm just kind of playing on instinct here. We've got Grishuk Bundsmann, draw in 1998. I can't believe Grishuk was only 24.90 in 1998. That's insane. He seems like older to me. That's weird. Saks was an extremely strong player. Very, very strong. Very, very strong theoretician. He liked to play sharp variations. Big, big e4 specialist. Knight e2, knight b6, castles. We're following that game and some others. Well, so I played a theoretical novelty now, knight g5, which wasn't the most principled move. I mean, frankly, when I first approached the position, I was thinking primarily about attacking black on the king side. And this idea that I mentioned earlier of transferring the knight over here, Mas versus Das. That's awesome. But that's a typical game in Indonesia, man. Did I ever tell you about the time, Bob, that I lost to I'm getting Malaysia and Indonesia confused now. They're Malaysian, but I played Moss. I lost against him. I never played Das. I won't feel complete until I've played them both. But honestly, I think that Moss was my... That's a weird little trivia. That is a really weird trivia question. Who was my first opponent in a game in Budapest, Hungary? In my life. 1997. Strange coincidence. I lost with black against him in the IM tournament here. So, no, ever. Yeah, before I moved. I didn't come here till 2004. This was in 1997. I played this Malaysian guy. My first tournament in Budapest, October 1997. Obscure Chess Edition. Yeah. So anyway, knight c3. So I played a theoretical novelty here. This is an unprincipled move. A wildly unprincipled move. I don't think this is going to attract a lot of followers, frankly. I mean, it's nice and aggressive looking. First of all, I'm not sure if am I really threatening to take this? I guess I would take it if you gave it to me. It's not like he's like going to checkmate me down the H file. A lot of people weren't born. But this I like better now, looking at it a second time. More balanced. I was focusing on the king side, and I was like, okay, what can I do to attack on the king side? So we played a novelty here. Stockfish likes knight c3. Queen e1 is an option. These people who played g4, like Moss versus Das, not at all concerned about h5, were you? I don't think it's coincidence that White didn't win a single game of these five. I mean, you can play g4, but it looks like, yeah, kind of unclear. So we played a new move, got him out of book, and he played g6, which I thought was logical, but I'm not sure if am I really threatening to take this? Anyway. That certainly stops f5. So now I just made a neutral move, bishop d7, and then I didn't know what to do. I just came back. The damage is done. No, I played Roustis in like I played Roustis in 1999, and he wasn't cheating. He actually played black against me. It was a draw. Roustis didn't start cheating until relatively recently. So g6, knight f3, knight b4, bishop b1. Here. And now I felt very uncomfortable. I saw this, and it was sort of a stupid plan, but I was kind of just willing to go back because I figured, well, if you do play knight c4, okay, no big deal. It's not like, you've gained anything. You're still blocking yourself on the c file. I didn't think it would matter. I was just trying to get away with a fast one here. Maybe I could try to play... No. Anyway, this is a bad move. But I didn't want to play a3 because I was afraid the square would go forever. So it's not easy to see how you get in there now that I look at it. How does he get his knight, to a5 and b3? Anyways, so he wanted to ask me a question about this game. Now he had a3. This was strong, apparently. a4, a3. I played this too late. knight c6, and you sacked pawns. Is there a categorization for this kind of undeveloped style? You mean my undevelopment on the queen side? But his undevelopment is on the king side, so we're even. My queen side is undeveloped, but his king side is undeveloped. He can't castle, you know, without coming under like a crushing attack with g4 and f5. He sacked a pawn here, but it was sound. I would have been happy with a draw at this point. I was even considering offering a draw, but I just didn't really see like a clear moment when to offer a draw. And now I figure I was out of the woods. So I don't know if you had something better. It's obviously a very complicated position. You missed your golden opportunity there with a3. I don't know. This is possible to play knight a6 here. And I know your knight's on a bad square, but is it that big a deal? Is it necessary to sacrifice this pawn? It seems like you seized the initiative on the queen side. I don't have a direct attack. I'm not even sure king h1 was a good move, because it's actually going to be more danger if I play g4 h5 than it was on g1. I mean, maybe I could just like grab space with g4 h5 g5, but it's a dead closed king side. I'm curious. Yeah. I don't know. Knight a6. Apparently the engine says knight c6 was a better move. This move shocked me. I was surprised. You could just drop that pawn with a4 hanging as well. I mean, I can see that queen takes a4 looks dangerous. Obviously, like, okay. But I didn't have a lot of time, and I was sort of happy just to like get a pawn. I guess we have to ask the question why I didn't play this. I don't remember if I saw knight b3. I don't remember looking at this. It's possible that I didn't even consider it. You know, I didn't even consider it. I was just too happy to play bishop c2. But probably I saw knight b3. I actually looked at knight b3 for you. I was wondering if you should do this. Like bishop takes. You can just play this as a pawn sack. So this actually looks pretty good, dude. This was your best move? Knight b3. Well, it's not. Yeah, it's a pawn sack. I mean, I would probably play AB and not trade queens. Computer says you can even trade queens and be equal. Down a clear protected pass pawn for white. You got so much pressure here. It's like a banco. It's a mad banco. No, I wasn't having fun in this game. So there's a lot of tension. It was a very complicated position. Your question about the end, when you gave up the exchange. Okay, here I still thought, I wasn't even sure I was better. I certainly didn't see any wins with f5. I was getting in really bad time pressure, and my opponent was in time pressure, and I was just happy to not be worse. I managed to time myself up where I was concerned I was even going to lose by getting into this pin with a knight and having back rank weakness. Apparently it's like a draw though, which is what I expected to happen. Again, here I was thinking of like offering a draw, but I actually thought I might be slightly worse, and that's why I didn't. I figured like you're playing for a win here. So I just did h3. I was content with a draw. When I play king h2, I'm still content with a draw, even though I'm a pawn up. I'm like paralyzed. I was trying to find a way to play f5. I almost played f5, I think right about now. My problem with this was e takes, and I wanted to play e6, but I didn't think it worked because you could play bishop takes. If I had had more time, I would have tried to work out a way to make this work. But I was in time pressure. I looked at it. I didn't see anything. So again, I would have taken a draw here. I'm just moving back and forth. And then you shouldn't sack the exchange. I mean, it's a draw. This is a draw. That's all it is. You're actually down a pawn. I mean, it's kind of unrealistic to try to play for a win. Your chances to win were earlier when the position was very complicated. So this is just crazy. I mean, I'm not just saying that because of the engine. I mean, maximum result here. With this sort of exchange sacrifice, I think your maximum result is a draw. You know, you're basically, what are you going to do? You're still just going to try to hold a fortress. It's not like you have a bishop on e4. Sure, if you put a bishop on e4 in this position, I mean, maybe black's playing for a win. But the fact of the matter is, you're down the exchange in a pawn. Your bishop's kind of passed. It was a blunder. I mean, I figured it was a blunder. I didn't know. But it also felt like it might be a desperate attempt to win with me in time pressure. All right, Warnaki, thanks for joining us. The a pawn's useless here. It's enough to like get me a draw, basically. Otherwise, he would be better, slightly better. You know, this a pawn guarantees me like a draw. He's down a pawn in the long run. Not that big a deal. It's funny though. I mean, on the surface, it looks like white's better. White's got a knight. Oh, knight is better than the bad bishop and all that. But I would take a draw here. I can't get out of the pin really in a good way. All right, so thank you, Mr. Slowhand. The end of the game is just time pressure. But now, unfortunately, he loses a c pawn. Normally, you'd have like fortress draws. If there was no a pawn, it would be hard for me to win, clearly. Okay, let me open the window again. It's getting kind of stuffy in here. The noises have subsided from ambulances. Ambulance hour is over. Rush hour has passed. So we're in the solid evening hours now. Budapest, 8:30. Only late night ambulances. Ubatis. There's Ubatis. Ooh, that cool air feels good. Major temperature drop. Ops colored Bishops chapter 1. This is the wrong study. Sorry. That is the wrong study. There it is. This. Correspondence chess. Ubatis versus Field Dizzy. Thanks. To sum it up, this line needs further investigation. Well, the biggest question is, I think it seems playable, but clearly my move knight g5 is a little bit off. But I'm more interested in knight c3 now. Knight e2 instead of bishop d3. I would probably try that if I had to play it again. I can play it better. But I think the line is completely playable, you know, for black. It's not like it's dubious or something. So this is Ubatis with white. Now, d4, knight f6, knight f3. I'm just going to be streaming for another half an hour, so we're going to get to the rest of the games in the next 30 minutes. d4, knight f6, knight f3, c5, c3. This is really passive. You're basically... just playing a sort of London system. Asterbay, thanks, man. 74 bits. But I think objectively black should try for more. You know, e6, g6, or d5. Those are the serious moves here. Trout, subscribe to tier 1, man. Good to see you. What's up? How's the Bay Area doing with the coronavirus? Are you still there? Did you go back to Washington State? CD4, CD4, D5. Making a recovery. Eureka. It's a gold rush. It sounds like gold country. Trouts. Trouts like found cheap accommodations in an abandoned ghost town. Alright. C takes D4, D5. Bishop F4. Knight C6. Knight C3. So it's basically the exciting world of the exchange Slav. Thanks, Mr. Slowhand. We will see you Sunday. Yeah, LA, I imagine, wouldn't be the safest place to be. I wouldn't recommend a lot of traveling at the moment. I'm not an expert on the West Coast like Bob, though. Bob is our resident expert, though he doesn't live there. Does he? Bob is West Coast, East Coast. He has it all going on. All right, guys, let's go back here, seriously, to chess. So it's not the greatest exchange variation. I mean, I think like in the Slav exchange, you'd rather play knight c3. Yabadis' knight is committed to f3. Let's go back, like quick primer on this Slav exchange. d4, d5, c4, c6, cd5, cd5. Bishop g5 is an interesting experimental move. But basically you're playing like knight c3 normally, and then black will play knight f6. You're going to play bishop f4. Black's going to play maybe a6, but probably knight c6. And then you're going to play something like e3. The idea is that you don't want to play knight f3 early because you get pinned by bishop g4. You just sent me the game, Trouts. You sent me the game here on lichess. By lichess, the very sophisticated lichess messaging system. We've got time for a quick analysis if you want to send in a game, but only like 5 minutes per game, if anything submitted now. So it'll be very superficial, but there's still time. You would be our last one. Number 10. So what I'm trying to say is that generally Yabadis, this knight delays itself, so in the modern exchange variation, we don't allow bishop g4 pinning us. That's the best line for white. Yabadis' move order obviously precludes that. He's already got his knight in f3, so the bishop g4 not as big a deal here because we can play knight e5, I would think. This doesn't look that bad. e3 doesn't excite me. How about rook c1? Maybe that. I'm not in love with bishop g4, I guess, there. I faced, what, this move? Was it knight e4, I think, in a game. Although I never played the exchange variation, I had this one game, the first round of a Grandmaster Norm tournament, where I didn't know anything about my opponent. I had no prep, and it was like, what am I going to do? So I just like played the exchange variation and offered a quick draw. He played knight e4, I think. So this is not really an accurate move order. a6, I'm actually wrong, guys. a6 should be played. a6 first. Bishop g4 is not correct here. It's a6 first, and then if e3, bishop g4. That equalizes totally. Alright, so basically, Yabadis' opponent must play, although this is an interesting move. This was played against me, I think, by Angelo Young. Why would I have an exchange Slav against Angelo Young? I don't know. But a6 is the right move. Bishop here, e3, and the white has nothing. This is the nothing variation. e6, bishop e2. Now I think there's something to be said for bishop takes f3. You can just trade your bishop. The bishops are worth nothing here. Less than knights. Then again, you don't have to exchange it. This is also not a bad exchange. Bishop for bishop. Knowledge Gabor. Imagine that a draw. And now white played knight a4. Leaving like this is like a beautiful square here. He's like Come in, visit the wonderful e4. I would play knight e4 pretty freaking fast in this position. And I think that black has at least equality. But black decided to play a very strange move, b6. Another good move for black is probably rook c8, I would think. Reasonable. He was terrified of knight c5. I guess there's a case for that. Maybe knight e4 is sort of mandatory here. We definitely don't want to see knight c5. Let's see what the oracle says. The oracle likes knight e4, but it likes knight h5 better. It's a bishop fiend. That's a good move too. Just grabbing that bishop. If I grab your bishop, then I can probably grab this when I need to. But I still think that knight e4 would have been okay. b6 is atrocity. It's an atrocity. You're practically like trying to lose the exchange with bishop a6, bishop b7. That almost wins by force, doesn't it? How does black defend against bishop a6? Maybe bishop a6, bishop d6, bishop b7. That doesn't work. How do you defend after this? Queen d7, knight a5. I don't know, but I don't like it. This is also not a bad move, trying to hope black plays rook c8. But b6 is awful. Like, you can't weaken your queen side with the bishop out on g4. And then it's over. Just like that. He lost an exchange. This obviously doesn't really help. And this doesn't help. Thank you for the exchange. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Now what? I don't really understand e6. I guess the threat is bishop takes b8. Now I understand it. So black should play pawn takes e6. And then what, like queen e4? Just centralizing? That's what he did. Yeah, that's a nice idea. You're threatening bishop takes b8. That's how I lost to Paschall Game last rapid tournament. I lost to bishop takes b8, weakening my c6 square. It was a family fork. He forked both my rooks and my queen at the same time by taking out the knight on b8. Thanks for reminding me about that. b4, interesting move. So bishop b8 anyway. Oh, no, you've got to do this. Very disappointing. Bishop takes, knight takes, and b4. Oh, he has a saving move there. So actually you couldn't win a piece. Feels like you should be able to win a piece here, Eubatis. Maybe his move is the best move. Bishop b8, knight b8, b4, queen c6. What's wrong with my variation? Bishop b8, knight b8, b4, queen e8. Alright, man. So, it's protected. It's only a slight problem with my variation. Wow. So that works. That's sweet. Bishop b8, knight b8, b4. Protected. Nice job. This is just very routine and crushing. You're still threatening bishop takes. And there's no way out. Queen a6, I guess. That doesn't help. Queen e8, our favorite move. That's the only try. Anyway, it's over. Really no sense in analyzing this. Rook takes c5, queen b7. I thought you were going to play bishop takes b8. That would be consequent. Undermining the c6 square thematically. Winning more material. And mate. Eubatis, thanks for sharing. Sharing is caring. And that was entertaining. Alright, guys. Ready ban. So ready ban. Let me see. Ready ban. And then Felix. And then Nefedov. This should be our most recent submissions. Kamsky I'm angry with because he's playing that arena, but he has in his finger notes that there's a lot of cheaters on lichess. I mean, it's kind of shitty to like in his profile on lichess, he's complaining about cheating. Like play on the site and then complain about it. I don't know. He's being a baby. We have no room for babies on the site, Kamsky. Don't come to the site and then cry and complain. Like, people don't cheat on others. This is probably one of the best websites for controlling cheating. Better than the Forbidden website, better than ICC, probably better than sites like, I've never played on Chess24. I imagine that they don't do as good a job as ICC. Excuse me. ICC sucks. But lichess, as lichess does like the best job at actually policing cheating. IGM, got a Kamsky in your arrogant profile. Alright, anyway. I got that out of my system. But now we get to see Ready ban play black. So knight f3 d6, dubious. This must be like a mobile phone or something. There's nothing dubious about d6. I mean, this is a good system. Probably one of the best ways to play for a win against knight f3. g3, g6. King's Indian. So Kamsky plays knight c3 here, which is a tricky system. He's intending to play e4. Yeah, another move I like a lot is a4. I've played this quite a bit. It's a Romanician. You can actually combine these ideas. So if you play knight bd7 or some sort of standard move, you're going to be transposed to the Pirts. I think that d5 is principled. Like, even if you lose a tempo, yeah, it is your game. So even if you lose a tempo, I think the d5 is still good. You're containing the knight on c3. So he's willing to play the Pirts, basically. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the Pirts. Actually, truthfully, the knight on f3 isn't really that well placed in this particular variation. So even if white does play e4, we can argue the knight should be on e2, better placed on e2. Of course, Gata doesn't need to play the critical lines. He likes like very, very simple. He plays harmless openings like the London system. All he needs is technique. Kamsky doesn't need to play anything like tactical. a4. I would imagine in fast games he would rely even more on technique rather than getting anything like complicated. Bishop g4. Oh yeah, Pirts was Slovenian master. Maybe he was a GM. I assume he was a GM, although in those days, like, the title wasn't as commonly. Pirts must have been a GM. He was Slovenian. Bishop g4. h3. Bishop takes f6. Whatever. I mean, I don't really like giving up the bishop here. So I think you should play either a5 or like the standard knight on bd7. Like, some people will probably grab the space there on the queen side. Bishop g4 is not really that great. You're going to give up the bishop pair here, and white has an advantage. I did some lectures on chesslecture.com about Fischer and Petrosian playing the white side of King's Indian attacks. It takes a skilled player, to use this bishop pair, but in my experience, it's a very lasting advantage. Kamsky should have pre-moved h3 now, but he's not psychic. So, take, knight on bd7, bishop g2. I mean, h6 is a bad move by black. There's no reason to play h6. It just weakens your king side. Probably the best you can do at this stage. I would just play d5 and play. I would play like you were playing kind of a passive Carol Khan Scandinavian or something. You really ought to just play d5, and if he plays maybe this, you know, we're just gonna trade stuff. Actually, he can't. Yeah, he can do this. It's like a very slight edge for white with a5 and c3, and h4, h5. You don't want to play this kind of position against Kamsky. You don't really want to play any. If you want to play any kind of position against Gata, it would be something very, very tactical and very murky and very unclear. Move 11, thanks for the gift. Gifting a tier 1 sub. You don't want to play tactical positions against him. I resigned against him when I was a pawn down. Knight on bd7, bishop g2, h6 is bad, a5. Yeah, I mean, the other move you could play here is a5, but I think after e4, white has a stable advantage. But maybe this is the best way to do it. Then you play e5. White is just better. This is like a standard type of position. You've given up your bishop for not enough. Against an average player, you could get away with it. Against Gata, forget it. A5 gives an advantage. You got to answer in the center. Yeah, this is space. You have a very unpleasant position, even against me, but especially against Gata. Now f4 is starting to get this. You should check out the game Karpov versus Timon. He has an advantage on both sides of the board. f4 is excellent. I wouldn't want to trade unless I have to here, because you're going to completely cave in. You know, after this, I mean, how are you going to stop him from playing like e5? Probably here's the last chance, you know. But I don't know what to do. I don't like your position. I think you're already like in serious trouble. I don't like taking on d4. I don't like taking on f4. I don't like knight h5. Your best bet is to sort of try to hang tough here, I guess. But I don't really know what to suggest. Now this is like crushing. e5 is just crushing. He opted for f5. There's this one hole in this position on g3, but I don't think it's a big deal. Well, black really isn't threatening anything. So I think he has a lot of options. I don't know, rook e1. Probably has to keep an eye on that pawn, but f5 is one way of playing. No, he regrets that pawn there. I would just have played like b4. I like keeping my knight on c3. It's keeping the control of the center. I don't see anything wrong with b4. You know, protect pawns with pawns. He's looking for knight b6. There doesn't seem to be anything for black here. The engine might find something. Yeah, the computer is claiming that black is better. I feel like it's kind of far-fetched. I don't really understand. But I think that the f4 square... I'm a little surprised. But I didn't like knight a4. I can tell you for sure I definitely would have played b4. And then he's looking at your king on the white squares. All right, so we have to sack the exchange. But we have knight f4, and I thought that was the whole point, to get that very strong knight in f4. And you can play c5 and save your pawn on d4. So you have two pawns for the exchange. And I don't really know what to recommend here. You know, rook e1, c5. So we get to this sort of situation where now you have 2 pawns for the exchange. I agree, like, the white squares are kind of weak, but your bishop isn't that great. But still, it's 2 pawns. He has no clear plan. I don't know. It wasn't that bad. So you played this. This isn't what happened, sorry. You played queen d7 on knight e6. You had to sack the exchange and play knight f4. And you have, again, I don't know, what can he do? Rook takes, knight f4. Give back the exchange. He doesn't want to do that. Yeah, this is the only thing you really missed. The queen d7, knight f8 check here. But you're going to lose your d4 pawn. I mean, if you only have 1 pawn for the exchange, it's going to be a much different scenario. Clearly. It's just not enough now. That was nice, though. I mean, you would have had a solid 2 pawns and the powerful pawn at d4. And every chance of holding, probably. I don't think he's even really better there when you have to sacrifice the exchange for 2 pawns. But now, well, the 1 pawn's not enough. And rook e7. Well, you're going to lose this. The queen side goes. You played g5 and you never got to play knight f4. But I'm curious how much the engine likes your position after rook e1. It looks very artificial. I was a little skeptical of his decision to play f5, frankly. You know, here he has the pawns optimally placed. He has play on the queen side. He has space over there. He has everything. And you don't really have any counterplay. But this move, like, is kind of committal. I didn't really like f5. I don't think I would play f5. I was really trying to play e5 if I break anything here. All right, guys. So next game, we've got a little bit of time left for a couple more games. We should do Nefedov. He's a subscriber, and we're going to do the Felix game. Where's Nefedov? Nefedov? Wait, Nefedov? What is Nefedov? He never submitted a game? Did Nefedov just not submit a game? I guess he didn't. All right, anyway. I guess he just dropped by. He didn't submit a game. I just assumed he was going to submit a game. He said something about my last game. I'll have to check after this. All right. Yeah, he said our last game. Felix, a new viewer, new subscriber. Is a subscriber now. I forgot. You were subscribed by Bob's Gift Sub. Felix is playing white. 1,700 against a 2,000. Yeah, the last game we played. Benoni with the knight on c3. It's basically a form of modern defense. I had never played bishop g5 before, but I guess it's not bad. I would imagine that black has a couple of options. I prefer just to play the straight up e4. So on bishop g5, I don't think... I mean, black could do something crazy like queen b6. It's basically a kind of Trompowsky type position. Or black could play e6 with the intention of bishop e7. So I think that bishop g5 is a mistake. You should play like a standard line with e4 here. Okay, it's still not such a bad move. And if black plays routinely, white could get a very good game. I think like g6 is nothing special. Generally speaking, in the Benoni, you don't want to block your bishop on c8 because white's going to play like a4. How is this bishop going to get into the action with the knight on d7 blocking it? Maybe there's a way here, some weird h6, g5 type of thing. I'm surprised that this has been played. Knight d7, okay, e3. e3 is kind of weird. I would just do e4. I just flipped ahead, sorry. So e3, a6. And then obviously you should probably stop b5, which is a standard Benoni advance. I think you can stop b5. But instead you play bishop takes f6. I don't like this move at all. I like the fact that you haven't played e4. Then it would be worse. But I still don't really like this. I mean, you're basically giving up your bishop for nothing. And after knight takes, it'll take a long time, but his bishop will eventually become very strong. If he plays this correctly, with something like g6, bishop g7. And you don't really have any compensating, features to justify this exchange. This is a bad exchange. Kind of like the last game, where Rediban traded his bishop on g4 against Kamsky's knight on f3. We don't have any real justification for this exchange. It's just an exchange that leaves the opponent with a bishop that has really good long-term chances. Yes, it doesn't look great now, but it will. It will become strong. I guarantee it. Bishop d7, not the best move. He needs to get the bishop in the game. That bishop can wait. I think he should wait. This gives you a second chance to play a4. And by the way, h3 is a bad move. I mean, I don't mean to slam all the white's moves, but this is really not necessary. Is it more dynamic to take with a g pawn f6? Yeah, I think it's also like fancy move syndrome. Yeah, this is fancy move syndrome. I think that it's possible and it may be good, but you also give yourself some weakness. I wouldn't give white anything here, This is just like a bishop for nothing, like the Dire Straits. Money for nothing and my chicks for free. This chicks are for free. After knight takes f6, there's no compensation. If you take it this way, white has some glimmer of hope that the weakness of the white squares would give him something. It's kind of like if you have a chance to win a pawn, Just something clear with no compensation. h3 is slow. Queen d2, I like b5. Again, I think maybe it's too late, but you should try to stop him with a4, a5, if you can. And now b5, white's just getting rolled. This is crazy. This is just a crazy move. I can kind of see some fantasy of getting the knight to d4. And ideally, if you could get it there and put it on c6. But it's a huge risk, After this, if black plays a5, I don't know, man. Our king is still in the center of the board. We have no pieces developed. I just don't think this is enough to justify, sacking a pawn. So the first decision to take on f6, giving up your bishop, and now giving up a pawn, not really enough compensation. Black played really well. Rook b1. I mean, black's played not perfectly. I mean, I think he should develop his king side. Queen c7, knight d4. This was a good plan, but it's not enough. You've given up too much to do this. Cutting off your nose to spite your face. Another cliche, but that's what he did. He gave up, he gave up more than he could afford. This is falling now. It's just lost. So I guess here we have to at least just try knight e2. We're just losing. Black played basically perfect chess. This was a good practical move too. As I try to tell to Astrobate, when you're up material, in this case a couple pawns, trade the queens. Trade pieces. It was a very good practical decision. Black played like a master, in this game. I'm impressed by Black's play. There's a glimmer of hope. Picking off that pawn on b4. Now you're only one pawn down. I wouldn't give up yet. Maybe unless I was playing Gadakamsky. IGM Gadakamsky. There are a lot of computers on this site. IGM, there are a lot of computers on this site. Gadakamsky. Bishop g7, rook b3, castle. Man, black was playing like a wand possessed. Very patient move, rook c7. That's just evil. I love that move. And now he takes, but why? This is weird. He like plays this ultra subtle move, rook c7, and then he takes when he could play rook c8. Oh, maybe it's a trap. It's a trap. No. There's no. Even this is an interesting move, bishop h6. Pinning you. Strange that he decided to take now. I guess it's good though. He piles up. Alright, so if you take here, he plays rook c8 with the threat of bishop h6 and basically undermines white. This is probably hopeless. There's also a5. You're in a deadly pin. Oof. It almost looks like a computer was playing black. This is also strong. I'm not quite sure how we defend after bishop h6. We don't. The best move for black is bishop h6. So he played d5. This is also strong. Again, bishop h6. Finally. Now it's over. I don't know, man. And black played like almost like a machine. I would check the game. I'm not saying he's a computer, but he made like no inaccuracies. I guess white played fairly badly though. It wasn't that hard. But I would definitely like run the engine on it. If I see no inaccuracies, I start to get a little paranoid. He was only like 2,000. It was like totally unforgiving. Most people would have given you a little more rope there. Once you started playing some mistakes, I would think that black would start taking liberties and making inaccuracies. It felt really brutal, yeah. I mean, I can play that well if I'm on my A game, but it felt like he was like merciless. You know, like a human would be not so merciless once they were better. This was like really over the top. Really brutal. He's 1760 blitz. That's weird. I don't want to turn every game into a computer analysis, you know. But I mean, that did feel really brutal. So far, 3 cent pawn loss. Ouch. 5 cent pawn loss, no inaccuracies. I also don't like the way his rating is 1700 in blitz and he's like 2084 in classical. That's sort of a major discrepancy. But I don't know. White made a lot of mistakes. You know, probably he's legit. He just played really, really mercilessly and really, really brutal. I don't know that he's a computer. It just felt really brutal. I don't know. Yeah. A human would be a little more merciful. Probably. I don't know. It's not enough evidence to prosecute him for being an engine, but I don't mean to scroll and make you guys crazy. Anyway, like there's a lot there you can improve in this game. I mean, even if he was a computer, we can still learn something from it. So, thanks for submitting the game. We've got Nefedov. Trouts did not submit a game finally. Nefedov, how am I going to find Nefedov's last game with me? Let me find my communications with Nefedov. My communications with Nefedov would not help me find the game, though. I have to go into my games and, like, search for Nefedov. Nefedov, where are you? Profile, games. Is Nefedov capitalized? I actually hate the search feature here. Human opponent. It's not always so clear. It's not even just Nefedov. What is Nefedov? Man. P Nefedov. Nefedov, you're a pain. Are you here? Does anybody know? I checked my followers. He's like an old follower of mine. Nefedov's been on my stream forever, so he goes way back. P_Nefedov, all small. You know, okay. Can I just check games with me? That's probably the easiest way to do it. Found his profile. We checked games with you. Games with you 257. Games with you 257. Here's the last one. 2047. Oh, this is where I lost. Oh, good. This was a Geller Gambit in Slav a couple weeks ago. Right. No, this is worth looking at, although I hate going over my own games, especially the ones where I lost. I was white against him. He always plays a Slav against d4. So I decided to play. So I've played this against him before. But I was playing a simul, 25 boards, or maybe more, and I don't think I was thinking clearly. It was early on. It was like move 6. I was trying to move fast. And normally I would always play e5 here. I've also lately experimented with the move bishop e2, and I've also experimented with queen c2. But I think I intended to play the main line of the Geller Gambit with e5, but for some reason, that goes e5, knight d5, a4. For some reason, I just got ahead of myself and reached out and played a4. And it turns out that this is playable. But this was not what I intended to do, Nefedov. I didn't mean to play a4. It was just an accident. So it's interesting. He plays the critical continuation, b4. And now I played a TN. But there's only 6 games where this has been played. Two of them very recent. It's interesting that Rui Damaso, quite a creative IM from Portugal, would play this in 2019. Another player I'm not familiar with, playing it in 2019. And Ochotnik, who's also kind of creative opening player, who I faced a month ago in a team game. So it's odd, though, that all these guys played knight a2, and when I faced this position, I felt knight b1 was more natural. This has never been played before. So they're all playing knight a2. And this is pressurizing b4, which is slightly different from knight b1. So if knight e4, this is obviously a move. No one has ventured that. Maybe worth looking at. But most people play bishop takes. And then there's this typical scenario like Aliekin did, where you have to like recirculate the knight back through c1 through like d3 and b3. But it's a massive pain. White was unsuccessful and has only like 5 draws and 1 loss. No, 4 draws and 2 losses in this position. White's overall score. But it's curious. My move is a novelty at the master level. So knight takes e4, bishop takes c4. Funny, the engine suggests this move, but I don't like trading pieces here. I think bishop takes c4 makes sense. And Nefedov could have played knight d6. That's the engine's recommendation. I don't know if it's better than the book, better than the game continuation. But what if we compared this position to knight a2? How did these games go? Knight e4, bishop takes c4, and then black played a variation of different things. e6, knight d6, and a5. I honestly hate my knight on a2, and I know it can come to c1, but it takes forever. First you have to move the bishop, and I don't know, does this even have a good square? Does it have a good square? Honestly, it takes forever to get this knight back in the game. I like a5. This is another game from 2018. Anyways, so we tried knight b1. Knight takes e4, bishop takes c4, e6. I'm going to turn off the engine now. Castles, bishop e7. I mean, one of the things that concerns me, of course, is like bishop a6. But he has to be careful. He can't just do that in any situation because I have this with a double attack against c6 and e4. So he can't just simply trade off my good bishop. Bishop e7 looks like a solid move. I play rook e1. And now he could have played knight d6. I guess that makes a lot of sense. And I can choose between b3 or d3, possibly even bishop f1. But frankly, at this point, he played knight f6. I thought I'd have some pretty decent compensation for the sacrificed pawn. I mean, I have a lot of freedom of movement. You know, I don't think it's that bad. I would probably even play this again. I'm not sure if I would play it in a long tournament game. But we got knight b3. I'm trying to focus on the c5 square. Keep his pawn backward. He plays a5, bishop g5, developing my piece. And then I expected maybe bishop a6. First he castles, and then I play bishop d3. And here he should, I'd assume, play bishop a6. Trading off his bad bishop for my... That's a very standard kind of idea. But I guess you'd have to admit that white has a lot of freedom of movement and pretty reasonable like compensation for the sacrificed pawn. Anyway, so Nefedov played an adventurous move here. This is dangerous. I still like bishop a6 better. So c5, and I missed something. I had 41 minutes, and I spent, what, like 7 minutes? Not only on this game. I mean, I was going from game to game. I have 25 games. But I spent a while thinking here. And I was looking for tactics. This is unprotected. This is a weak point. And this is a weak point. I was trying to find ways to, you know, to string these together to create some kind of double threat. But I think I missed something. dc5, knight c5, bishop c5. And I could have played bishop takes h7 check. I could have just played this. King h7, queen c2 check. Presumably he goes back. Then take on c5. Probably the position is about equal. I guess bishop b7. He does get a strong bishop, but I got my pawn back, and everything's okay. Instead, what I did was I played d takes c5 first. He took, I took, and I didn't see bishop takes h7, so I played queen c2 first. But I think I missed something even stronger. I thought I missed something even stronger here. Maybe not. Oh, here, okay. Yeah, h6, I mean, this is really not that big a deal. This is not a dangerous, like, battery. So what should Nefedov do? He has some computer move, b3. Alright. That's, like, just cool idea to trade this for this. Bishop for bishop, basically. We're not going to see that with limited time. So I would think that he would probably just, like, retreat his bishop or something. Retreat his bishop, give me a pawn back, and everything's fine. This is not a problem. Black is fine here. You don't need to worry about your h7 pawn. It's not really a big deal to give a pawn back. You have a good game. But instead, yeah, he missed something. I missed it too. Check, king h8, and, well, I mean, I guess basically this was the point. Bishop f6, queen f6, and somehow, oh, because the rook's not protected, that was it. So takes here, I'm on his c5, f8 diagonal. We both didn't see, at least that for sure, that I'm attacking f8, but I don't think I even saw this far. I don't think I really looked at bishop h7. So, it was a really bad blunder. And now I played simply this, and I still can't even see that I'm winning a piece. I mean, I probably played this, which was dumb. I could have played bishop e4, winning, what, an exchange, for sure. At the minimum. It's actually winning more. It's winning a piece. It's winning a piece. Very, very strong. So, I did this, and now queen takes c5, and this is not hanging any longer, and I have no forks. But I was already getting the very bad time pressure. I didn't see I had bishop e4 again. So it was a bad game tactically. And then I was very angry because I thought I could still hold this. White still has great compensation. And here, his pieces are undeveloped. And his kingside is broken. But I started getting bad time pressure. I mean, I played queen h5, which is very logical, but he was able to defend after that. Maybe a rook lift. I think I looked at this. Rook d4 idea. Let's see how the computer feels about that. Not good. Well, apparently I'm only equal now. So queen h5 is a blunder, and after bishop e7, I've got nothing. I thought I would have something, but he's coming to the g file, and his bishop's super strong. So how can I still save this game? Queen c2 check, and if f5... I guess I didn't like f5. I didn't know what I was going to do after f5 to really strengthen my attack. I mean, I could play knight d4. I suppose that's the answer. His queen is in a bad place. This looks pretty dangerous, obviously, after knight takes f5 with that king. But I didn't have the time to figure it out. I literally played this move in like 5 seconds. Black plays bishop b7, and now I sat there trying to find something that wasn't there. Rook lift, but he's just in time. He's just in time. He defends against my threat of rook h4. He's got rook g6. So this didn't help. But I mean, rook h4 was just as bad. Same thing. And it's a dead end. I mean, he could even play queen f8 there. Kind of a typical semi-Slav, where that g file kills you. And now I'm just lost. Pile up on the g file, but I'm down a very key pawn. In an endgame, he's up a pawn with a stronger minor piece. I have no threats. I'm lost. This was really unnecessary. You know, Nefedov also in time pressure trades this super powerful bishop for the knight. It's absolutely like not necessary. Now I should have chances to draw, but again it was just like time pressure. I should have taken with my queen, which was out of position now. I have no attack and my queen's in a bad place. Now it's really stupid. It's really stupidly placed on h5. So I tried to fix it and I dropped my b2 pawn. My focus was on getting the queen back, but I just forgot he was attacking b2. I can fight for a draw here with b3. But I think objectively Black should have tremendous chances to win. Yeah, it's still hard, somewhat unsound. But now he's got nasty threats of f4. If my queen goes away, he'll have like h5, h4. And then tripling on the file. It's tremendous chances for Black to win here. I guess I should have played like here. Maybe queen h4. Let's say rook g8, queen h4. He could trade pieces. That would be fine. Actually, he's not trading pieces. But anyway, white is just worse. I wasn't happy. But I dropped my b2 pawn, which is ridiculous. And now this is winning. He's up a pawn anyway, and then I drop b2. Not a great game. And I blundered a queen trade finally. But I had a minute left, and I was flagging on all boards. It was not a good game by either of us. But the opening was very interesting. That's the one sort of redeeming feature, that this a4, which was an accident, is actually kind of interesting. And it's not clear if this is worse than knight a2 or not, I think, at the end of the day. Anyway, guys, I have to go. So we are on tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Central European Summertime. I appreciate everyone for joining me. Thanks for supporting the stream. Mr. Slowhand with 2,300 bits this week. Astrobate up to 14.99. Blobix wasn't here tonight. He's falling behind, but we appreciate his help. 1,300 bits. Thank you to the rest of everybody who supported the stream. We had some gift subs. Bob, also Move 11, Fortuna. Thank you guys so much for your support. Pavel, hopefully next time a better game. I will see you guys Friday again with Blitz. Fast Blitz tomorrow, 5+3 against everyone. And Someone on Sound will be here for our simul on Sunday. Thank you, Ponda, for your help. Thanks for encouraging everyone to socially distance and be careful. Stay healthy. See you guys tomorrow and for the Sunday simul. Thanks everyone for supporting the stream. Have a great night. Bye bye.